guys. I was just working on I don't know if it's still streaming yet, so we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to play a little bit more. All right. Sorry, guys. Caught me in the middle of my practice. Surprisingly, I've only been playing for about 5 minutes, and I swear to God, that feels pretty good. I got to tell you. It's I don't know who says guitar is hard, but I haven't found it very difficult. So, anyways, welcome to my show. Mad short stories for the mind of a madman. I'm here with some friends that are going to be joining me in a minute. But thank you all for watching. We are actually going to be on YouTube, Facebook, and starting tonight Instagram. And apologize for last week where I had so much music playing you couldn't even hear it. So tonight's story is called "Stay Away from the Tree." Just a short story about 3 friends who notice that little kids start missing, and they realize that it's from a killer tree. So we're going to see how my friends handle going up against a killer tree. I'll be narrating, and my friends will be joining. So without further ado, I'm sorry, but playing that guitar really wore me out. That's a pretty good workout. I'm going to have to do this after the show, too. All right, without further ado, let's get started. And is it going? Oh, okay, cool. Come on in, guys.
Oh my God.
And just let me know when we're back to the... Oh, we are now. Okay, how you doing? Wasn't expecting you guys to be there so fast. All right, so welcome to tonight's show. I'm here with 3 of my 4 guests. As you can see, only 3 can fit on the couch, so I had to put Baby in the corner. And Baby would be my baby brother, who's coming in later on. So you guys may just want to kind of ignore the time lag on the video there. So now that I've drawn your attention to it, enjoy looking at it for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go around the room and introduce everyone here, let them introduce themselves, actually. I'm going to start here with my sister. This is my sister, Laura. Laura, why don't you say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm Tony's older sister, so he listens when I talk.
Yeah, so no, you're not. No one's allowed to flirt with her. She's my sister, so... and she's taking, so back off. All right, and this is my friend Wes. What are you going to be... tell us a little about yourself. What do you do?
I'm a web developer, and I'm kind of into the same nerdy stuff that he's into, so kind of connected there.
You have a Darth Vader tattoo too?
I don't.
Oh, well then, he's all right. Yes, he's cool. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Harry Potter.
Oh, Jesus. We'll get to you in a second,
Who
Nate.
invited
His answer would be
Right. And of course, last week you may have seen him, but maybe not have heard him over the music we had going last week. This is my friend Nate. Nate, why don't you tell a little bit? Did you bring a copy of your book tonight?
I didn't.
Okay, so check out last week's video. He is an author, has a book. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your book. And
I don't know, man. I'm Nate. I'm an author, researcher, lecturer, whatever. And I do haunted houses. And
All right.
religious demonology, and so that's what I do. And my book, A Moment Called Man, is on Amazon. I'm excited to be here with everybody.
and what's it called again?
A Moment Called Man.
Moment Called Man, yeah. I had to go back and listen to the video because you said it so fast and look it up on Amazon. But make sure you guys check that out. You know, huh?
I'm just
Do what I want.
So they say to rappers. All right.
All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the story. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of tell you a little bit about this. I actually don't remember how I came up with the story. You know, last week we did Nerf War, and I remember from that one, it kind of reminded me of my son used to play with Nerf guns a lot, so that kind of where Nerf War came around. My first story, Generational Killers, kind of came about because I would drive home from Cincinnati, an hour drive, second shift, in the middle of the night, and so that character for Generational Killers drives home and gets pulled off one of the exits and gets pulled into a house of murder. And then I think Alone in Space, I had just done an Alzheimer's walk, so that kind of got me thinking about doing maybe science fiction about that. So that character is stuck on a derelict ship, come to find out he's actually in a hospital and suffering from Alzheimer's. There, has a moment of clarity towards the end. Spoiler alert. But this one, I really don't even remember where I came up with the idea of kill a tree. I don't know, maybe a tree looked like a killer tree or something like that. Most stories I can tell you what I was thinking, but this was 2 years ago, and hell, it's a killer tree. I don't want to tell you. So we're going to find out exactly what goes on. This is from these stories that we're going to get into are from a couple of years ago. So even if you had read them when they first came out or listened to the podcast on that, then you probably forgot it by now. So it's like listening to the first time. So everybody got your drinks, everybody comfortable and ready to go. Everybody get a chance to memorize your lines. Cause I'm taking your papers now. You gotta, no, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that to them. I gave you them like 5 minutes ago. Seriously. Didn't I give you your copy? Okay, yours should be memorized because you get to do it at the end. So whatever. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So I'll be redoing the narration. I might stop from time to time. Yeah, it is. Sorry, it's kind of hot in here. But it's like kind of it's winter time. I hate the freaking cold, so I'm waiting for summer. So I figured if I make it 80 degrees, maybe it'll bleed out there a little bit, you know. All right, so I'll be reading, and then when we get to the lines, you guys just kind of jump in. I'll be doing the whole you said, you know, but you guys can say the actual line. Say it however you want. So you may want to like already have like maybe how you want your 13-year-old child to sound like, voice to sound like. So you did a great job last week.
No, that wasn't me. That was Patricia.
Yeah, that was a whole totally different, you know, personality. If you haven't seen Split, you should get a better understanding of what's going on here. But yeah, it was. You got to come up with your character. What exactly do you want to do? It's really fun when I do it by myself because I'm doing everybody's voices and sound ridiculous. I think Molly's was probably the hardest voice I've had to do so far. 12-year-old girl. So check out my podcast if you want to see what I sound like. All right, let's get into it. It all began on a random Tuesday in 1953. Billy Henderson went missing while walking to a friend's house just a few blocks away. There were no witnesses, no suspects, and no leads. The police of the small town spent weeks scouring the surrounding forest to no avail. Being a small town, a missing child haunted the town for years. As parents would keep their kids indoors, neighbors would suspect each other, and rumors of who could have done it spread like wildfire. Life had slowly started to return to normal when a little girl went missing in 1958. Once again, there were no witnesses, no suspects. The police had no reason to suspect that 2 disappearances were related, since there were few clues and no Lincoln leads. There were no signs of a struggle, no missing clothes or toys. The children were just walking around town normally when they just vanished. Families began to move out of town as more children disappeared over the years. The dates the children went missing varied. One child would go missing on August 21st, 1961. Another would go missing on March 2nd, 1963. And then no children would go missing until June 13, 1967. There was no way to link all the missing children together, so while it was traumatic to the town, there was no way to build a profile of the cases. One day the children were there, the next they were gone. Over time, it became common practice for the kids to always stay together, or better yet, in groups. In the end, though, kids would find themselves walking alone and then disappear every few years. Jimmy rode his bike along with his friends Molly and Chester. He cranked up his tape player to full volume as the road to Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Should have had like that plane or something in the background. Oh, I muted her, but too late to get Alexa to do it now. Shh, don't say her name. She'll like start doing shit. All right, by Nirvana. Enjoying the summer of 1992. Oh, that was a great year, right before I graduated. I mean, you know, when I was, you know, I'm 10 years younger than I actually am, so I was 2nd grade, I think 11th grade, or 1st grade. I can't even do the math. I can't even lie about my age and do the math right. Crap!
High school.
I had the best 3 years of my life before I moved on to
Tommy Boy reference.
Forgot I'm live. All you people I've been lying about my age about. Forget what you heard. All right. It had been several years since another child had disappeared, but every day the kids wanted to go out to play. The parents would say, "Stay together and come straight home." This didn't bother Jimmy, Molly, and Chester, as they spent all their time together anyway. They were celebrating finishing the 5th grade and were excited about being 6th graders, the top of the food chain in elementary. I think I got that because in my school, like the 6th grade was like the only grade that was like on the 2nd floor. So like I kind of felt like you were a boss when you were 6th grade. I think some schools like start at like junior high, like 6th grade, you know, when you're bottom of the food chain. But for me, it was pretty nice.
30 people in my school.
Yeah.
Like,
I had a few more than that, but it was totally cool walking in and you had to see all the 4th and 5th graders like walking down the hallway, like see you losers, and walk up the stairs. The only grade that was up there, so you know that's where that came from.
It's a penthouse, bro.
That's a penthouse right there. It was Beaver Creek. It was very fancy. They pulled off into an open field where they joined another group of kids for some backyard softball. One of the nice things about growing up in a small town was that there was plenty of big yards to play in.
Come on, Jimmy!
Molly yelled from the sideline.
Knock it out of the park!
That was actually really good. You're made for this. Man, you do sound like a 12-year-old girl. Jimmy gave her a brief smile and ready for the pitch. Charles stared him down from the pit. Charles That's the problem when you have too many characters that are close. Charles and Chester. Charles started. Then I'm wondering if I missed putting the speller wrong. Yeah, we're not gonna get through this. It's gonna take forever. You should know this by now. Charles stared him down. I keep saying starred. 1 R. Stared him down from the pitcher's
Quit
mound.
drinking.
Looked around. I only had like 2 sips.
Don't quit drinking.
Looked around to all the empty bases out of habit, and then pitched the ball. Jimmy, who had never played on the team, knocked the ball over Charles' head and into deep left field, being chased by little Doogie Barnes. I don't know where I come up with these names. Names are so hard for me to come up with. Some of these
That's
are
the
really
Dougie,
ridiculous.
by the way. It's
Doogie Barnes.
It's the Dougie.
It's a Dougie.
The dance is called the Dougie. It's Dougie Barnes.
Okay, well, I'm
It's not
pretty
Doogie
sure
Howser, it's
based on
Dougie.
IE, it's
His brother
Doogie.
Doogie.
Maybe it's Dougie. I don't know. Maybe it is
Doogie.
Doogie. Names have always been hard. I don't even know anybody named Doogie or Dougie.
Paris on television.
I started actually just picking names of people I knew. So if you show up in a story, more like I said, I just can't think of anything else. But it's not that the character remind me of the character. Just I needed a name. Dougie wasn't or Doogie, however you want to
It's
pronounce
French.
it. It's French. Whatever language you want to say it in.
Dugay.
Wasn't fast enough though. Dugay. I said wrong. I'm so sorry. I slandered the language.
I vote yes on that one.
The problem is I couldn't put an accent on the keyboard. That's where all the confusion comes in. Dugay wasn't fast enough though, and the ball hit the ground before we could get to it. We're gonna say his name different every time, so it sounds like 4 characters. Jimmy ran past first and then second, but stopped at third as Doogie Dugay threw the ball back into the infield. All the kids on Jimmy's team cheered. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. When I do my recordings, I actually add some sound effects sometimes, or do it myself. It's kind of fun, and I'm usually drunk. All right. Molly came out to bat next, and all the boys on the other team moved in closer to the infield because she's a girl.
These boys never learn.
She thought with a smile. Charles pitched the ball and quickly looked up as the ball flew over his head, continuing its flight over all of his teammates' heads as well. They all scattered to chase the ball, but it was too late. Jimmy ran home, followed not long after by Molly. I forgot what happened to Charles. Or one hidden. Doogie. Let's see, where am I? Oh yeah. As the sun went down, the 3 of them started walking home.
You guys did great.
What?
That sounds like a Chester. What the kids didn't realize, Chester was really a 30-year-old man.
Chester Button.
And I might have gotten that name from Lincoln Park. Names are hard for me, so in retrospect.
Never even mattered. I tried.
The mystery thickens. His last name's Dugay.
No, Dugay is a different person. That's Dugay Barnes. Charles and Chester are 2 separate people too. Everybody's different. Chester was a good friend, but a lousy softball player. He normally played deep right field and tended to punt, so he wouldn't have to risk having his pop-up ball caught.
Punt? Is there punting in baseball?
Pop-up ball.
First down.
Oh,
Is there a
tended to
punt
punt.
in baseball?
Oh, it's bunts. I don't have a pin, so it's staying. And when it gets novelized,
Upside down B.
Chester got.
he was so bad
He got
at
charged for
softball.
He wasn't having
Chester did a double dribble. Took it in for a
Holy shit.
It's good.
I gotta take this off. This shit is hot. Holy shit, I'm like covered in sweat. It was awesome.
Oh my god.
Chester has no idea.
They all cheers. He got a strike. A spare. Actually, he's a strike in softball.
Oh my god.
He got the spare. Jesus.
Can we keep going?
Shut up 300. You guys got this.
All right. Let's see. As they walked to Molly's house to drop her off, the wind picked up, which felt good after playing in the field.
See you tomorrow, Molly.
Later.
Jimmy said, Chester waving beside him.
Later.
She said back again. The boys walked away, talking and joking the whole time. They stopped in front of Jimmy's house.
You want to stay over?
Jimmy asked Chester.
I can't tonight.
Oh, God.
Chester said.
Oh my God.
It's a long
My
set.
boyfriend is coming over for dinner. She wants us to get to know him. Everything's gonna get questioned.
Chester's very special. It's not only softball he's not good at.
I don't know. Like, why do I feel like I have to answer that?
I'm pretty sure if no one's gonna die, it's gonna have to be Chester.
Yes, please kill Chester first.
Oh my God.
Jimmy knew that would suck, but so he said.
Sorry, Chester. Say hi to the creep for me.
At the bottom. They laughed a little before Chester walked away to head home a couple of blocks away.
Hi, Mom.
Jimmy said when he walked through the door, laying down his bag. When he laid it down, he noticed he still had Chester's Velcro wallet with some money in it.
What?
Velcro wallet. Did you have a Velcro wallet? I love my Velcro
Why
wallet.
does he have Chester's wallet?
Crap.
It was an accident, he said. he knew his mom would give Chester crap if he didn't come home with his wallet.
I'll be right back, Mom.
Deal with it, he said as he ran out the door to catch up with Chester. In case you haven't noticed, this is all like just going with it. No one's practiced anything, including myself, as you can see. He ran down the street towards Chester's house, but didn't see him.
Wow, he got home fast.
He thought. As he was crossing the street where Chester's house was, he glanced right and saw Chester walking down the street away from the house.
Chester!
Jimmy yelled after him. Chester didn't answer. He just kept walking. Jimmy ran after him, calling out every few seconds until he caught up to him. He stood in front of Chester, blocking his way, but Chester walked right around him. Jimmy got back in front of him.
What are you doing?
Jimmy asked. No response. Chester walked around Jimmy once again. Jimmy got back in front of Chester and put his hands on Chester's shoulder. I like saying Chester, apparently. Chester's shoulder. Stopping him from moving forward. Instead of saying he, I just keep saying his name over and over again. He kept marching in place. Jimmy's, I really should make these guys like reenacted. Probably, the cost is going that direction. Chester kept marching in place. Jimmy's mouth fell open as he looked into his eyes and only saw a blank stare. The longer Jimmy held him in place, the harder he walked. I'm replacing all the Chesters with a proper pronoun. So that I don't have to keep saying Chester 15 times in one sentence. This is one of my first stories. Eventually knocking Jimmy backwards. Jimmy tripped and fell. Chester once again walking right past him. He wanted to run for help, but he didn't want to lose track of him.
Help!
Jimmy.
He turned into a 60-year-old.
Help! Help!
Let's still do this, Jimmy.
Right. Jimmy called out, hoping someone would hear him, but as if on command, the wind picked up, blocking his voice from carrying. He hoped he would see someone outside, but no one came out. If someone had looked outside, they would have seen one boy walking while another boy tried to stop him, getting knocked to the side, and then moving back in front of the marching boy. Once he even tackled Chester and tried to pin him, but Chester's feet stopped moving, and Jimmy was eventually knocked off, allowing Chester to stand back up and keep walking, just added some flair to it, inflections. Chester walked into the town park and appeared. That's the only name anybody's going to remember from the whole story. Chester.
I don't know about the story, but that Chester.
But that Chester guy, I know everything about him. Chester walked into the town park and appeared to be heading towards the town tree.
The town tree.
The town tree
Oh,
was
man.
said to be one of the oldest, and when the town was first built, it was the only tree in town not to have been cut down. As time went by and the town grew, the people planted new trees to replace the ones that had been chopped down, but everyone knew the one to be the oldest. As Chester got closer to the tree, the wind began to howl louder. Jimmy looked around and noticed that it was only windy where they were at. Outside the park, it looked calm. Jimmy also noticed that the trees seemed to darken as they approached. Jimmy, I just like those names, don't I? Jimmy didn't know if it was a trick of light, but the tree seemed to now have eyes and a mouth. It seemed angry. Chester was almost to the tree when Jimmy couldn't take it anymore. He stood in front of Chester and punched him as hard as he could. He had never hit someone like that before and was unsure of what would happen. But right after he caught Chester in the jaw, he collapsed unconscious. As soon as Chester's body hit the ground, the wind stopped blowing. Jimmy looked around, looked at the tree, and noticed that though there were lines in the shape of eyes and a mouth, it no longer looked alive. He turned his attention to Chester, who was lying unconscious on the ground. After what seemed like an eternity, Chester woke up, squinting as he dealt with a throbbing headache, trying to figure out where he was. They slowly made their way to Chester's house, where Jimmy told Chester's mom and Chester's dad, what had happened, and begged them to call the police. They seemed more upset about him admitting to hitting their son than the ridiculous story of it in your tree. In the end, they sent him home with a stern warning to never hit Chester again, and then trying to cover it up by lying. Jimmy ran home and told his parents the same story, resulting with the same warning from them. Accepting that his parents wouldn't help, he called the police himself the next day, but they seemed insincere when they said they would look into it. Jimmy was unsure of what to do. He could barely sleep that night, but he's determined to do something tomorrow if he could. The next morning, he met up with Molly and Chester and told them what had happened. Chester didn't remember anything. He remembered walking home and then being home with a huge headache. Even the walk home from the park seemed fuzzy.
My mom said you hit me?
Chester said, not wanting it to be true.
I had to.
Jimmy replied.
You were in some kind of trance. I tried over and over to stop you, but you just kept walking. You walked all the way to the park, and I know this sounds crazy, but I think that old tree wanted to eat you, bro.
Bro, that's right, man. I would imagine that more of a country slur with that one. The country. The tree wanted to eat you.
Tree.
Maybe Jimmy grew up in the country, moved to this little town.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing.
Yeah. Jimmy worried that he had lost them with the last statement, but they both knew Jimmy wasn't prone to making up stories or lying. Chester rubbed his head.
I don't remember.
Trust me, Chester.
Jimmy said.
I didn't want to hit you, but I had no choice.
Chester looked at Jimmy and said.
I believe you.
Molly said.
I believe you too.
Where you been all night?
Sleeping.
We have to do so. Oh, sorry, that's me. Jimmy. Did I not highlight that part?
Yeah, it's you.
Is it me?
Right
Did I
here.
forget to
He
highlight
didn't
that
highlight it.
part? Oh, okay.
We have to do something.
Jimmy started.
I think this is the reason all those kids have been going missing. I think that old tree has been taking them like it tried to take Chester.
But what do we do?
Molly asked.
We chop it down.
Jimmy said sternly. Chester looked at him.
But we'll get in trouble.
I know.
Jimmy replied.
But if we don't do this, he'll take another kid someday.
Maybe stopping it from taking Chester last night means we're safe for another couple of years.
Molly said. If I can get a drink now while they're doing this talking. Did I not highlight that part either?
Maybe.
Literally hits the part.
Jimmy agreed.
Or maybe it's still hungry and I'll try to take someone again tonight or tomorrow even.
All three thought about it. He doesn't sound sure.
Where's the sense in it?
All three thought about it. Chester was the first to speak.
You saved my life last night.
He said.
I know it. I'm with you.
Jimmy nodded.
Aw. I can't have my two best friends facing a monster alone.
Molly said.
I'm in.
The three of them headed out to Jimmy's garage and started to look for anything they could use to chop down the tree. They found one axe, but nothing else that would help. Did I not highlight that one? I did. I did very
We
rapidly.
have an axe at my house.
Chester stated.
Us too.
Apparently I took care of Molly. She's all hooked up. Apparently I wanted these guys to mess up so I look better.
But my parents will stop me if they see me try to walk out with an axe.
Chester pointed out.
Well, we'll have to wait until dinner and then sneak out.
Jimmy said. Molly and Chester looked nervous. They weren't expecting to go out when it was dark. In the end, they both looked up and nodded. I'm back to reading. I gotta let my drink down. Jimmy was nervous at dinner, but his parents didn't notice. His parents, I could never pay attention, as Will Smith tried to tell us in his songs. He made up an excuse of needing to study for the test tomorrow and head upstairs. He knew he had until 9 to cut down the tree and get home before his parents would notice. That gave him 3.5 hours. He climbed out the window and stealthily made his way into the park. The entire time he walked, he hoped no one would come out and see him walking down the street with an axe. He
That is suspicious.
I should have added a spot in there where some guy's walking his dog. Boy, what are you doing?
Just dragging the axe.
You take your dog for a walk, I take my axe for a walk. Don't worry about it. Alright, I could have done better. It's been long. Alright. When he made it to the park, he was the only one there. He was worried that Molly and Chester had been caught. He decided he would give them a few more minutes to arrive before he faced the tree himself. He was about to start walking towards it when he saw Molly and Chester making their way up the street together.
Hey.
He greeted them when they first arrived.
Hey.
Hey, it worked. I liked both of that for them. Molly and Chester tried in unison.
You guys ready?
Jimmy asked. They nodded, but Jimmy could tell they were still unsure. They turned and walked in the direction of the tree. As they got closer, something caught their attention out of the corner of their eyes. They all turned to see another boy walk in the direction of the tree.
It's Charles.
Jimmy pointed out. Jimmy could tell he was walking the same way Chester had been the night before.
Charles.
Yeah. He called out.
What are you doing?
No reply. All three of them ran towards him, trying to block his way. Just like what Chester had before, he just kept walking through them. And no matter how much they tried to block his path, he just kept moving. Once again, the wind picked up, and Jimmy turned to look at the tree. The angry face had returned. Seeing that they were not going to be able to hold on to Charles and fight the tree at the same time, Jimmy looked to his friends.
Hold him here.
He yelled over the wind.
I'm going to start chopping the tree down.
They both nodded in understanding. Jimmy ran out at the tree and swung as hard as he could. The wind seemed to pick up, and Jimmy could have swore that he heard the tree scream. Behind him, Charles collapsed to the ground, released from his trance. Once Molly and Chester realized that Charles had been released, they turned and joined Jimmy at the tree, where they both began swinging their axes along with him. The wind seemed to be turning into a tornado with each strike, and a howling began to fill the air, but they kept swinging, hoping with each strike the tree would die. Worst ninja ever. That's right.
All of a sudden he throws smoke.
Ruin the surprise, everyone.
Everyone, yeah. Black sap began to pour from the tree like blood, and as they struck the tree, some of that sap would splash on them, making them look like they were slaughtering an animal.
Ew.
Visualize that, kids. They're scared. That's right. What does it mean? Who slaughters animals? Oh, that steak they're eating, that cheeseburger, buddy. Sorry to tell you. Santa's not real. If your rude lies, ruin them all. Their arms were beginning to get tired, and they were all afraid that they wouldn't be able to finish the job when there was one final howl, and the wind began to die down. Once the wind was gone, Jimmy could see the angry face had faded, but he knew they wouldn't be safe until the tree was cut down. The three of them looked at each other exhausted.
There's no way we can cut it all the way down.
Molly pointed out.
Watch your drinks.
Why don't you can get in front? Can we see it? Stand by Billy there.
Maybe I can help.
Hell yeah! America!
Hold on. Say you have a chainsaw.
A man said, coming up behind them holding a chainsaw.
Yay!
He pulled the cord, bringing the chainsaw to life, replacing the wind with its own roar. It didn't take him long to slice through the tree until it fell over, falling away from the children. Charles joined the other three kids, and none of them could believe what they were seeing. Before the man walked away, he said, the tip of his hat,
My son went missing years ago, and every day I look out at my window hoping he would return, or at least I'd find out what had happened to him, but I never did. And then tonight I saw you kids walking down with axes, and I had to see what you were up to. When I saw the other boy walking toward the tree in a trance, and I saw how the tree looked alive, I knew what happened to my boy.
what?
The
What
tree-
happened to your boy?
Pretty sure the tree ate him.
Damn tree.
The kids watched the man walk off into the sunset, and then began walking towards their homes. They told Charles what was happening. Bye, Ninja. They told Charles what was happening since he had no idea how he had ended up in the park. The tree being cut down was a big deal for the little town, but everyone involved never came forward to tell the story. Over time, the police stopped looking. As the years passed, the town slowly started to come alive again as no more children went missing. Yay! We made it! Oh man, that was fun, wasn't it? And turn in your homework. There was a quiz at the end. You guys fill it out? Yeah. Really, I wanted to see what you guys learned from it. I'd like to thank my guests for joining me tonight and doing some of those voices. We do this every Wednesday with different friends. Of course, I got more friends. It's not, and then They ain't only ninja. I mean, it's not the only friends I have. I got more. They're out there. But don't forget, Nate is an author, so make sure you check out his book on Amazon and give it a read. Also, don't forget that you can also go online and buy my novel, Sins of the Fathers. You can buy it on my website. For the next 10 people that buy a copy, not only will I do a live signing at the end of the show, which I plan on doing at the end of each show, but also the next 10 also get a free copy of my first book, Weight Loss for the Rest of Us. I wrote this back in 2010, and so for the next 10 people that buy my novel, Sins of the Fathers, will get a free copy of that along with it, and I'll also sign it next week in the next week's show. If you want to contribute, you can show your support by following me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat. I'm everywhere. Visit my website to buy my book. Also, become a patron on Patreon if you'd like to support the show. On there, I got a lot of goodies that I give out for people who become patrons, including behind the scenes of me recording my podcast. So you kind of get to see the mistakes that I make as we kind of go through. So all descriptions for my guests, anyone that have businesses or links to their books, I'll have that in the description below after the show. My son. Wow, my little brother. Sometimes I think it was a son.
Not that guy.
Yeah, I'm that Billy. There's a zombie guy. But my brother over there is also a part of the band, Bipolar Opposites. So I'll have the link to his band also on there as well. So again, guys, I appreciate you guys coming out. Don't forget to go buy a copy of the book so I can start doing some of these book signings. And you know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna go ahead and just jam out this last song. I'm thinking maybe Freebird or something like that. And then if you wouldn't mind, while I'm doing this, you can go ahead and click stop streaming. And except for people on Instagram, I actually have to physically walk up to you like a normal person, like a caveman, and put a stop. But we're gonna go ahead and just break it out with my rendition of Freebird.
God, stop streaming. I'm streaming.
Freebird. Like every now and then, just make it Freebird.
Do you even know how Freebird goes? That's not it. No.